Hey, viewers and listeners, it's the Edward Show. I wanted to introduce our special guest, and that's why we use the Marvel fanfare, is Jim McCarthy. And Jim and I are in the same BNI group, and we have a few of the same interests. But the reason I use the Marvel fanfare is Jim's a Marvel dude. Like if you look around his office, he's got Captain America's shield, which I got to hold when I went down there. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing well, sir. How are you?
Good. And you've got the gauntlet, right? The what is that?
I do. The nano gauntlet back here. This is the one that was custom fit for the Hulk in the end of Endgame, and then they had to run with it, and yeah, then it went on to Iron Man's hand at the end. That's when he snapped Thanos out of existence. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen the movie.
Well, if you haven't seen, how many Marvel movies, Marvel Universe movies are there right now? Like 60?
In the current contemporary, what they call the MCU, there was the original 23 movies, which wound up with the last Spider-Man called Far From Home. And a lot of people say that was the end cap of that phase. And now we've gotten into Black Widow came out recently. Now we're coming into Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings, which is coming out in September. The Eternals is coming up this year. And then the year is going to end with this amazing Spider-Man, no pun intended.
Which we were just talking about prior to.
Yeah. No Way Home is going to be coming out.
Okay, so answer this. Did you expect at your age today to be into all this?
No, not at all.
How did it happen?
I never grew up with it. I wasn't a comic book guy. I was always kind of a passive viewer of the movies, like at arm's length, just saying, "Oh, that was fun." The Spider-Man movies in the early 2000s were kind of, "Oh, those are fun," and it wasn't really head over heels into them. We watched, a friend of mine got me into Iron Man in 2008 when it came out in the theaters, which side trivia was actually, I believe, Marvel Studios' last ditch effort before they just folded, before they were going to call it quits. If that movie didn't work, they were going to be like, "Look, we're bankrupt." So they took a big chance on it. It worked out beautifully for them. So kudos to them. And, we was on a whim. My buddy, who had always been into comic books, he came to visit and he said, "Let's go see Iron Man." I said, "Is that the movie about the robot?" I had no idea. So, we went and saw it. It was Robert Downey Jr. So, he was kind of on the outs of Hollywood and very controversial from what I could remember. I didn't really keep up with his career all that much, but man, what a performance and what a fun movie that I came home and told my wife. I said, "That was a good movie. That was fun." And that's what you should come away from a movie with. Just, it was a fun movie.
So then, given the choice between a Marvel movie and Schindler's List.
I like uplifting stuff. I mean, Schindler's List isn't bad because it's historical.
Right. It's not value, but for me, I'm like you. I want to get entertained. Okay, get back. Sorry.
Oh, then you have the Iron Man 2. Then you had Thor that came out. Captain America was, to me, in the beginning. I look at it now a lot differently, but when that first Captain America came out, it was kind of a snoozer, to me at least. And then the first Avengers came out, which they all came together, which was a first. You had never seen that before in Hollywood cinema. So I was like, "Oh my God, that's kind of cool. Look at that. Thor and Captain America and Iron Man all hanging out together and, fighting each other. And now they got to team up and save the day." And that was a fun movie, and it wasn't one of these kind of like straw man villains. It was a legitimate threat that was in the movie, and they all had to figure it out. So that kind of, whetted my appetite. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a fan. I'm still good." And then the next Avengers came out. Then they had the Guardians of the Galaxies, and I had no idea. I thought that was just, hey, Marvel saying, "Hey, we've got these properties. We might as well make movies out of them and make some money." I didn't realize that they were all part of the same thing until in 2018, my wife, just by happenstance, says, "Hey, let's take the kids to a movie. We'll go see that Infinity War." I'm like, "Oh, is that's the new Avengers thing, right?" Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the one that really hooked me.
There you go.
Because and because they all once again came together, all the franchises. You had Doctor Strange, you had Guardians of the Galaxy. Ant-Man wasn't in there yet because he comes out in Endgame, but yeah, everybody comes together, and they lost in the end, which was awesome.
Right. Yeah,
which is terrific.
See that very often.
So
it's funny when we go to comic book movies, and I'm not really a fan of the dark comic book movies. I enjoyed the golden age of comics. I could never afford to buy them, but you would go to the used bookstore and you'd try and sneak around the corridors and like sit down and read them so you didn't have to buy them.
Right.
And so I'm not a big fan of like the Dark Knight, dark Batmans. Give me the 60s Batman comedy on TV any day. But it's so funny. My wife sits there and she watches the movie and she goes, "Oh, that was fun. Now explain this part to me and explain this part." And I'm like, "I just watched the movie. It's just fun." She goes, "You don't know all about this stuff?" I'm like, "I was never into comic books. I go to the movie, I enjoy it, and then we move on to the next one. Like I don't get into it." But it's sweet that she thinks I know all of this geek stuff that I don't know.
Well, it was like, I was like that, hey, that was a fun movie. I don't really need to get that much further into it, but something about Infinity War set off some sort of a dip switch in my head that we now had to go back and rewatch all the movies to fill in the blanks, and okay, why did this happen? Why were they there? And how did this work? And all these little recurring themes that came back into play, and
so
Thanos being,
as a Marvel fan, does that make you a most of us, when we become fans of something, right, we poo-poo the other stuff, right? I'm a science fiction fan. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, grew up watching Doctor Who all the time.
Right.
So for me, that is
exterminate.
That is part of my childhood, and then when you end up with the TARDIS landing, when that I still get goosebumps right now, because like at 6:00 on a Sunday night, you heard that sound come on the ABC.
Yeah.
Long. That's a long sound. You heard that sound come on the ABC. That's the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. And wherever I was in the house, everything was dropped, and I ran to the TV to watch Doctor Who, because there was no VCRs or anything back in the early 70s when I was watching it. So anyway, my point is, are you a DC sucks kind of guy because you're a Marvel fan, or can you appreciate, if you enjoy the movie, you enjoy the movie, right?
It's funny because a lot of my marketing background comes into play, especially the thoughts I have on pendulum, which I think I've talked to you about before, where we go from societal cultural shifts to different attitudes and such. I believe that there was a massive shift, like DC, how you were talking about back in the day, 60s, 70s, 80s, the Justice League and stuff like that. Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman that we knew in the 80s
Friendly,
is a much
nice,
yes, more just truth, justice, the American way, clean cut, different than the Henry Cavill version that we see nowadays. We have a lot more authenticity. There's a lot more relevant life that happened to that character. In the Man of Steel movie where he makes his debut, and I guess it's the developing of the character. He, he's on a crab boat. He's had some hard knocks. He's had some life happen to him. And really good acting from Henry Cavill. I think he's one of the best Superman embodiments that we've had in a long time. Russell Crowe, that played Jor-El, his father on Krypton, was a phenomenal role. I mean, the guy's a great actor, as you well know. And he's from your neck of the woods.
For a Kiwi.
Yeah. And, but all that kind of shifted over time. And when Marvel really started, because, Marvel was kind of grasping at straws. It had been Batman and Superman for decades. They were just the top. And to laymen like me, you couldn't tell if they were Marvel or DC or if there was ever really a difference. Right. But as things kind of played out, you understood the difference. And then Marvel had the Spider-Man, Sony and Columbia and Marvel had the Spider-Man franchise with Tobey Maguire in the early 2000s, and that caught fire. And then there was okay, let's go with Iron Man, let's try it. And Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America were always just, kind of like secondary island of misfit toys to the Superman and Batman, right? But now they're obviously a king of the hill. You know,
Right.
they're top of the mountain.
I want a Toy Story 5 where we
Right.
see all those Marvel characters as action figures in. That would be freaking hilarious. Or just make me a Toy Story, just an Avengers Toy Story thing.
That could happen. I mean, from what I understand, they've come together in the comic books in the past, you know,
Right.
where they've had collaborations and stuff. But but DC, you know, when they couldn't grasp onto that number one spot in that category of that comic book movie, because they had so many Batman reboots and stuff like that with Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney in the late 90s, early 90s and such. And then they had what's his name? Christian Bale, who reprised the role in the Dark Knight series, which was very dark, like you're talking about. Yeah. But that darkness, that real gritty authenticity permeated that whole franchise. And that's they invented a category to be number one in. So that's a marketing thing. If they couldn't be a number one in the main category that Marvel overtook, they said, well, you know what? We're going to be the bad boy version, you know,
like the anti-hero, you know, we saw comics. And again, I'm not a big comic guy. There's way more people that know way more about comics than I do. I know probably everything I know about a comic would fit on this fingernail.
Yeah. But I mean, look at, you know,
fun ones, and then they started going darker and darker, and you know, and somebody gets married,
dismal,
almost,
almost.
It's just like, nah.
I mean, you look at, you know, the Batman from the 60s, played by what's his name? They were in tights.
Adam West.
You know, Adam West.
Yep.
Yeah, the Adam West version of Batman was very just kitschy, you know, and then Superman, to extent, you know, with Christopher Reeve, was kind of the same thing, you know. And that was part of that me upswing that I talk about in the pendulum, where it's hero worship, and you want your heroes to be better than you. In a which is where we are now, we want our heroes we want to relate to them, you know, and know that they're, you know, fallible like we are. And that's what we see.
We're seeing a lot of these superhero series come out where we have bad superheroes, but they're still considered good, like the Boys series on Amazon. Have you watched any of that? Right. You know, and some of that stuff is just like, oh man, I don't want my superhero to do that crap. Like, you know, but it is what it is. Anyway, so we could do the whole show talking about that, and most of the people, like, we've already lost maybe 90% of the audience already. But that's okay. Hey, I wanted to introduce you to probably my only fan, if I don't count ceiling fans. His name's Trevor. Trevor. Yeah. Anyway, so I got a couple of ceiling fans, but that's about it. So I'm trying to build my fan base here. Don't send me any little like fans. Don't do that. No fans. Listening, don't send me the little desk fans or anything like that. I don't want that. That's not what I was going for. I'm just going for cheap laughs. I found this.
You are a master of the dad joke.
That's right. You inspired me with your soundboard and your voiceover and radio background. So are you from the Nashville area? Did you grow up around here?
I have not. I grew up in Connecticut, the tri-state area, which is Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, that whole area until I was about 25 years old. Worked with my dad in the telephone business. I would known that business most of my life because that's what he did. And then got into radio. I was about 22, 23 years old. Oddly enough, working for an electrician, which was my full-time gig. And then my part-time was going to the radio station and cutting my teeth. And then that turned into full-time. And then I found my next, climbing the ladder job and making my first major move was in 2001, where we moved to Las Vegas, where I worked for a CBS affiliate called KXNT, the talk station.
You got away from the tradie position and went into radio full-time?
Yep.
sales or voice talent?
Mostly all production behind the scenes on air. Okay. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be on the programming side. I thought I was a decent salesman, which, later on in life proved to be a fallacy. And, that took me from Vegas to Nashville, and I landed in Nashville in 2005, worked for Mix 92.9 and Jack FM. 2 weeks, actually, a week after Jack had flipped to its current format from an oldies format is when I came on board. Okay. And that was a fun experiment in radio because I was able to do all the things that they told you could not do in radio, that broke the radio rules, so to speak. So we ended up visiting a lot of those old ideas we put on the back burner because of the rule breaking element, because Jack FM was all about breaking the rules.
Right. Let's talk about breaking rules for a second. I'm 54 years old, or maybe I'm 54 this year. I don't know anyway, but close to it. And it was interesting growing up, for my first 20 years of my life, it was all follow the rules, born in 67. So my parents were kind of hippie-ish. They broke a few rules, but in general, you followed the social etiquette. You followed the rules. I kind of like it a little bit these days. It's a love-hate relationship, right? I love some of the walls that we're breaking down. Some of it frustrates me, Can't I just go to the toilet that's marked with men? Can I just do that? Is that okay?
Sure.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you allowing me to do that.
You have my permission.
But I do like the fact that, people that want to start businesses, they can start businesses. And we've never been in a better time in human history for a person to start a business. The internet allows them with Facebook, and I don't know how long it will last. I think that the elites will find a way to tax everything so it makes it hard again for people to start businesses. But I think today we can get on the internet, we can have a Facebook page, we can have an Instagram profile, we can get business cards done if we still want them for $10 for 1,000. I remember paying $100 for 100 business cards the first time I had a business card, right? And to get anything printed, you didn't have desktop publishing. You had to go to a printer, and they charged you an arm and a leg just to make a little flyer. So it's a great time to be alive and to have things that we need. So that's exciting for me. Talking about breaking the rules, right? And so we're seeing that in movies, we're seeing that in everything, that they're breaking the rules.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely agree.
So one of the things we talked about when I was on your podcast was we talked about kids and selling, which is one of my passions. I think I love when I see the Girl Scouts out selling cookies and I stop and give them tips on how to sell, right? And I'm like, look, there's lots of ways you can sell. One of the good ones, especially when you're little and cute like you guys, you can use the sympathy close. And mom, and they're going like, what's the sympathy close? I'm like, you can go, oh, please buy some cookies. My troop's trying to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I always have fun with that. And I say, okay, I'm going to come back out and you've got to give me your best sales pitch. And when I come back out, of course, they normally do nothing.
Right.
Yeah. But you always get that one. You get
what's
that
a pitch?
Yeah. What's your pitch? Come on. And so like somebody's be walking in and I'll go to them, hey, let's talk to this gentleman. Would you like to buy some cookies? I'm like, that's one way to do it. And then I get down on my knees. Please, sir, buy some cookies. I said, see, you got to be extra. My
teaching
daughter,
them the identifying the problem first and then trying to solve the problem.
That's right. How many boxes of cookies would you like? 6?
That's right.
One for
the
each
upsell.
of your friends? You don't have many friends?
The first time I became aware of the upsell, the notion of an upsell was when I was buying pizza. And when I was in college, I used to go to this one pizza place in Danbury, Connecticut called Michelangelo's. And a good friend of the family's for a long time. And it was always one of my favorite lunch spots. I miss it to this day. Great, unbelievable pizza. That's tough to replace. And we were talking about selling and sales, because at that time I was kind of selling rainbow vacuums. And
love rainbow.
He goes, and he goes, I said, give me a Sicilian. He goes, 2? Yeah, let's go with 2. He goes, see what I just did there? I said, no, what? He goes, that's called an upsell. And he says, I just completely suggested it to you and you thought it was good and you went for it. Not even thinking it might have been an option or thinking to ask for 2 slices of Sicilian pie, which was a gut buster and put me to sleep an hour later. But that was the first time I was made aware of what an upsell was.
Love it. And obviously those that have been servers do the upsells and offer the appetizers and then the desserts all the time and try and get you to bump up to an alcoholic drink instead of your soda or pop. What do you guys say in Connecticut? Is it pop or soda or Coke?
It was Coke or soda. Okay. Coke being that they were the dominant brand of the category. I mean, they kind of, I think they just created the category around their name. It's like, I'm going to Xerox something, or I'm going to FedEx it.
Right. Rollerblades.
Yeah. When you can turn your brand into a verb,
Right.
you've done something right.
Yeah. It was the first time I ever went down to Savannah, Georgia from Wichita, Kansas. And they said, "Do you want a Coke?"
Yeah.
I'm like, no, got Pepsi. Well, same difference,
It's one of those things that makes you think about, when we were coming home from Florida one year, and I was maybe about 9 years old. We were going through Virginia, and we stopped for lunch, and the waitress was asking me if I wanted more cake, and I was going, I
haven't had my first piece.
Did I have any cake? Or, I'm looking at my mom, and she's looking at me, and my brother's kind of raising an eyebrow. I'm going, okay, am I the only one here understanding that I don't have cake in front of me? She keeps on saying if I want more cake. No, she was saying Coke. Yeah, just for the.
Well, I get in that trouble, man. What do you do with one of your office chairs that the ram, the whatever that thing is that keep you up? It keeps going
hydraulic.
down. Yeah, the hydraulic. Isn't like, is it that I'm too fat or something? I don't know, but that thing just keeps I keep shrinking over the day.
You just need a new chair. That's all.
I just bought it like a year ago. So anyway, but yeah, I get in trouble like that when I like at the BNI meetings when I would stand up and say I own a butter exchange, and they go, a butter exchange? No, a barter exchange. And with the Aussie accent, it still doesn't clarify it. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you saying? And then
barter.
Yeah, and then I can't believe it's not barter. Something completely different,
Sure.
No, I've got so many buttons over here. There's no way to put them in order of my top 10 favorites. So there's a Monty Python one on here that says, and now for something completely different.
And now for something completely different.
There you go. So that would be something completely different. I know you've got a bunch over there that are better organized than mine.
I don't know about that.
I like.
I thought they were at one point.
Yeah, yeah. I was sitting here Saturday morning. I was just having too much fun with it. Anyway, I talked about that in the last episode, so I won't go into that. But so the language gets in the way. One time I was at a BNI group and I was looking for a referral to a guy that sold used cars. Well, we call that a car yard,
right?
And you guys call it a lot or
a used car lot,
right?
Yeah.
And so I get up there and I say, hey, I need an introduction to a guy that's got a car yard. And they go, what's a car yard? Are you from Boston or something?
Yeah. I was going to say, that sounds Bostonian.
I said, well, what do you call it? He said, well, the guys that got car in his yard, that's the double wide down in Oklahoma, and they're all up on blocks. That's a car yard. I'm like, no. Where they sell where they sell cars. They said, oh, that's a dealership.
Yeah.
And I said,
used car dealership.
Used cars. And they said, well, that's a car lot. I said, well, that makes sense. It's a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
that's true.
It's
true.
It's like the two guys, trying to figure out where they were, and they're sitting in a restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky, and they go, no, it's Louisville. No, it's Louisville. No, it's Louisville. No, it's Louisville. And they call the waitress over and say very slowly where we are, and she says, Burger King.
Or Louisville.
Louvers are the things on your windows, your Venetian blinds.
It's Louisville.
Yeah. So I'm learning to be down here in the South. I'm having a good time down here, though. It's a lot like Australia, the generosity of the people and the friendliness, although that's pretty much the whole Midwest. Wichita was like that. But I do like the roads go up and down, and there's a bunch of trees and stuff, which where I lived in South Central Kansas, no.
Yeah, they went straight and flat.
Yeah, it was really good for building cricket fields,
Yeah. It's funny. We saw a movie today that involved a lot of cricket playing. It's called The $1 Million Arm.
Yes, where they go to India to try and find baseball.
Another pitcher. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like the playoff of what did they do? It was the exact opposite one.
Moneyball.
Might have been Moneyball or something. No, I can't remember, but there was a cricket one where they'd come to America looking for cricket players or something. It might have been like a Bollywood movie or something. So yeah, this is my cricket field in Kansas. Now I've got a few trees around my property. So, but that's drone footage we had of the cricket field in Kansas. So that's pretty
nice.
But okay, so what is your knowledge? Let's test your knowledge base about Australia. Would you say it's next to none, or you've got some knowledge about Australia?
I'd say it's kind of meh.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I know where it is.
Well, that's a better start than most people I talk to.
That's right.
I was talking to the lady on my first episode, and I said, somebody asked me if it was in Europe. I said, no, that's Austria.
Yeah.
So, and then
it's about the size. I want to say it's about the size of the continental U.S. There's a lot of desert. The Sydney Opera House is there. The film Finding Nemo had a lot to do with Australia and it taking place around that area. And Chris Hemsworth.
What was the shark's name?
Bruce.
There you go.
Why did they name it Bruce?
Probably because of the Monty Python skit where they named him all Bruce. Every Australian was called Bruce.
In Jaws.
Yeah.
The first Jaws.
Yeah.
That Steven Spielberg directed.
Yep.
The model shark, they actually coined a name for it, and it was Bruce.
They probably got it from Monty Python. I'm just saying.
Think so?
Yeah. So remember in the 80s, I was never much of a tennis fan, but tennis is a big sport in Australia. A lot of Australian stars in tennis have won Wimbledon and different things. And so through the 80s, the Germans were doing really well in tennis. They had Steffi Graf and Boris, I can't think of his last name, but
say Yeltsin, but I don't think that's
Boris Yeltsin. Yeah, no, that's a bit further, But they came out with a statement or something, some article I read that said that by the year 2000, 35% of Germans are going to be called either Steffi or Boris because they were winning everything in tennis.
Wow.
There was a point there somewhere. I don't know what it was, but when the Monty Python, they did the skit on Bruce. Hi, Bruce, how you doing? They'd all wear the swagman hat with the corks popping down. Hi, Bruce, how you doing? Oh, good, Bruce. How's it going, Bruce? Yeah, pretty good, Bruce. And they did this whole skit on all Australians being named Bruce, even the girls. So.
I do know that Australia has a lot of good-looking people. Something in the water or something that's going on down there.
Yeah, that's why I was reported.
Very fine specimens. You know, my daughter. I woke up one Saturday morning, and on Disney Plus they have a shark show that Chris Hemsworth, Thor, who plays Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he was hosting this show on sharks, and it took place in his homeland, Australia. So my daughter, 9-year-old daughter, I said, "Hey, Hallie, I found a show for us to watch this Saturday morning that involves 3 of your favorite things." I said, it involves the ocean, sharks, and Chris Hemsworth. And her eyes just lit up, and we watched an hour of the show. He's a...
Did he take his shirt off a lot, or did he keep it on?
He does. And it's funny because in all the scenes that he takes removes clothing, it's literally for maybe 5 to 15 seconds at a time that he puts a shirt on.
Right.
Which is very interesting to me. It must be contractual. And I think it must be a little nod of respect to his wife that, I'll give them a taste, but I'm not going to, make them drool. And it's funny because he and a buddy of his they're going surfing in one scene of this show, and they're talking about the sharks and everything like that. And they get this dramatic shirt changing scene where he puts the wetsuit on and everything. And his buddy is just sitting there doing the same thing. I'm like, dude, if you're his buddy, you just go, you make the motion and you see him doing it, and you just kind of go, yeah, I'm good. I'll just wear what I'm wearing. I'm not going to take my shirt off in front of the camera. No.
Yeah. Well, it's such a culture, especially on the coast of swimming. I mean, if you watch the Olympics, Australians do really well in the water. I mean, they just are great swimmers, and it's pretty much a part of our culture. But I tend to find that people from all gamuts, but the pretty people are on TikTok, and although I do have a TikTok channel, Special Ed Fox Dad Jokes, by the way, just so you know. I knew you would find that hard to believe, but yeah, there's a lot of gorgeous people in Australia. I just find that the 30 years I've spent here in the US, or 31 now, I'm changed. I'm changed more by the where I've lived in Kansas, is that freedom to live and let live. You don't have to impose your regulations on me. And as long as you stay out of my way and let me do my thing, if I'm not doing anything illegal, immoral, or unethical, then, do what you want. And I really appreciate that. And now I've come to Tennessee and I found that that's even stronger, that freedom to be who you are, to be the authentic you. If you want to, take your truck or your four-wheeler through the mud, whatever those things are, if you want to do that, if you want to go shooting, if you want to go hunting, and if you don't want to go hunting, that's okay too. I like that.
Yeah. No, it's a kind of why they founded the country in the first place. It's just get out of my way. Stop telling me what to do. Stop overtaxing me and burdening everything that I'm doing. And we'll just do our own thing. You good with that? And England wasn't good with it, as we all know. And they came after us and tried to, the one thing I will say is that Australia definitely has the coolest accent of all accents, I believe. And it's a very tough to replicate.
Right. I've got a voiceover guy in Wichita that's a trade bank member. He's actually got a better Aussie accent, but he's an ex-radio guy for years and years and years, popular radio guy around Wichita. And his Aussie accent is spot on. Like, it puts mine to shame. I have to watch Crocodile Dundee once a month just to try and keep it there because I've been here for 31 years. Every time I call home, or now I'm doing Zoom calls with my sisters, they're like, Ed, you sound such a Yank. I'm like, I'm in the South. You can't call me a Yank because I'm in the South. Well, to Australians, every part of America are Yanks.
Yeah.
Yankees
were in my neck of the woods to the Southern people.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So in Australia, it's funny. So you've got Queensland, which is the pointy state, right? That's the point of Australia. That's Queensland. Then you've got New South Wales. That was the first state. Then you've got Victoria. Then you've got Tasmania. You got Northern Territory, South Australia, and then like a third of the country is called Western Australia. Right. And so I lived in New South Wales. So the ones to the north were the banana benders, and the ones to the south were the Mexicans.
Oh, wow.
Which is odd, but it is what it was. And then for the guys in Victoria, the New South Welshmen, or from New South Wales, they were cockroaches.
Oh.
So, I don't know why. I'm
not sure if that's an endearing term, but
I think in Australia, all terms are endearing. It's just the way it's said.
I think America got its first contemporary taste of Australia through the Mad Max movies, as well as Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, so like Mad Max and Mad Max 2, I think that was like 79 and 82 or something. And a good look at a good-looking Mel Gibson there early on. And then Crocodile Dundee. He adopted a very authentic Australian accent for a while, and then it stayed with him for a few years, and then it just went away. Right. And I think Mel Gibson, wasn't he American originally?
I believe so, and he moved there during his impressionable years.
Right, or something. Like Nicole Kidman was born in Honolulu, I think, and she moved to Australia too. So, and then Russell Crowe, he gets called Australian all the time, but he's actually New Zealand, I think.
New Zealand gets confused a lot with the accent. Being close. A voiceover person myself, my European-esque type of dialogues or dialects are horrible. And I end up always sounding like Dracula or a Russian by the time I'm trying to, get through something in a British accent. Right. And it's funny because one time I had a script that required a British accent. So they wanted me to try it. I gave it my best, and they ended up liking it for whatever reason. We had a guy who was living with us from England at the time, renting a room, and he heard me through the door attempting this British accent while reading the script that I was getting paid very well for. Right. And I opened the door, and he stands right there looking at me going, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "Dude, I don't know, but they like it. I'm running with it. They're paying me for it. I'm good." All right. Yeah, I know it's awful. It's the most awful British. I cannot do one for the life of me. Yeah. It's bad. I've been watching this series on Netflix about the iconic movies. It's a pretty cool series. Like, they started off with Back to the Future, and then I think the next one was Pretty Woman that we watched, and the third one was Jurassic Park. And it's Spielberg talking to Sam Neill, or Sam Neill's relating the story about they want him to do an American accent.
and his American accent is so bad. They just said, "Oh, do your normal accent." I think he's Kiwi too, and although he gets called Australian all the time, I think he's Kiwi. And then they come. Spielberg comes back to him and says, "Hey, we need you to go like halfway." He's like, halfway? Like, what the hell, dude? Like, but anyway, that's a good series. If anybody's not checked it out, it's the movies that made us, or how we made the movies, or something. But they were going to do Eric Stoltz for Michael J. Fox's part in Back to the Future. In fact, they had a lot of it recorded with Eric Stoltz. Could you imagine? I can't imagine Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that they were considering Nicolas Cage for Iron Man and Tony Stark.
Right.
That would not have worked. It's like, no, that's not going to work. No, you hit it out of Robert Downey Jr. was the right decision. He hit it out of the park. Yeah.
Well, and then the one they did on Pretty Woman, when Disney, Touchstone Pictures has it, so Disney, and they're like, "You're going to make a movie about a prostitute? Like, this is Disney, right?" But Julia Roberts stole the show with a smile. I mean, she'd done what? Mystic Pizza. So Mystic Pizza. And so I'm big movie buff, but I kind of like go to the movies, enjoy the movies, and then move on and want the next movie, right?
Yeah.
So are you what is the AMC one? A-lister Stubbs guy or a Regal Unlimited guy?
I think we're a part of the A-list Stubbs program.
Close to an AMC, are you?
Yeah, the AMC chain.
Right.
But we watch a lot of movies at home. We watched that movie recently, the one, The $1 Million Arm. That was a fun movie, true story, evidently. And what was the recent one we watched? It was with Chris Pratt called Tomorrow War. That was fun. That was on Netflix. That was a good movie. Netflix
or Amazon Prime, one of those two. But that was good. It could have done well in a movie release. We're a mile from the Regal, and so we've been Regal members because in Wichita, Kansas, the Regal bought the best theaters I've ever been into, called the Warren Theaters. They're a little run down now. They haven't kept the same attitude, but they were. I would tell my sisters, like, you got to come to Kansas because you got to come to the best movie theater in the world, and it was just brilliant. But we've been going to Regal, but it's pissing me off because they're they've had to extend our membership by a year, but now they, instead of charging the 54 cents for the ticket that we used to get, just, because they could, like a service fee, now they're charging $1.50 a ticket. Plus they're saying, oh, it's a convenience fee to be able to buy them on the app. So that's another $1. And I'm thinking, hang on. Okay, then I don't need the convenience fee. I'll buy them off the app. Oh no, you can't buy them off the app. You must buy them on the app. So that's a convenience fee for you. You should pay me $1. So now they're getting $1.50 for the service fee instead of the 54 cents, and they're getting $1 for the convenience fee. I'm like, hang on a second. So for two of us to go see a movie now costs us $4, and people are going, well, it doesn't cost you 20. Yes, but that's not the point. The point of an unlimited movie pass. The evil word. But for the unlimited pass from Regal was the fact that we save a bunch of money. But now you're nickel and diming me to death. So I'm ready to move down to Nashville area and park next to an AMC and get their A stubs. Their A list. Are you happy with that program?
Yeah, I mean, it's every now and then the last movie we went to was Black Widow, right? And I believe we used the program in that. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that was just a good deal, and hey, we'll figure it out and move forward with it, and that's what we've done. Yeah, I love Movie Pass. Were you a Movie Pass guy too? I think we did the bucket, the bucket of popcorn. We would upgrade to the big plastic bucket. You get free refills, or I don't know, refills for $1. Pass, and then they took it down to $10 a month, and I'm thinking, guys, you'll get everybody, but you won't make any money. And of course, they went bust. But if they kept it at $30 a month, it would have kept out a lot of the non-movie folks. So at $30 a month, all I got to do is see 3 movies, and I'm even. Yeah, it makes sense for you at that point. But I mean, they're an industry in flux, and they're trying to pivot with what's been going on with them. So yeah, and they got to do what they have to do. AMC's movie stock price, when they reached out to the general investors and said, hey,
will put you in this own loyalty club if you're a shareholder in AMC, and it's put their stock through the roof. I think that's great. That is a great way to treat your customers.
Yeah. Well, but then they also have a, what was it? Them and somebody else. I can't remember, but there was a huge news story that people on Reddit pumped their stocks to the point, because there are so many people that were shorting the stock.
Oh, GameStop.
And
that was GameStop.
Yeah, GameStop, and it was AMC, I believe.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah. So it was the GameStop stock went through the roof, as well as the AMC stock went through the roof, and cost all these, stock short people to just, take a bath.
Yeah, the big investors got all upset because somebody beat them at their own game.
Pretty much.
I love that stuff anyway. But talking about kids and selling, which is what we started off this portion with, is, I really think that if somebody can go out and learn sales, they're always going to be able to make money. I don't care what industry you make sales in. Mm-hmm. If you can solve people's problems and give them what they need or want, then you're always going to have the ability to make money. What do you think?
And I agree. I completely agree totally. And one of the easiest ways to get into it, if you have the same kind of perspective and an objective perspective, I guess you could say, is, if you can't do anything else, or you feel like you're in a dead end job that's barely paying the bills, and I say, you know what, go sell cars. All right. If you don't know how to sell, that will teach you the fundamentals of selling from start to finish, from, A to Z. You'll figure out a way to take those fundamentals. And if you have a good dealership that's going to teach you and train you and show you what you did wrong, hopefully not, where they completely beat you over the head with it, which some dealerships do. They're not exactly big on building culture. But if you're in a good dealership that will take the time to train you on the fundamentals of selling and building relationships, thinking about what I call be them centric. I have a hashtag that I call be them centric, because it's not about you. And even when it is about you, it still isn't about you. And it's always about the other party if you have that kind of outlook. And that's what a lot of the car business is all about. The ones who have the bad experiences with people in the car business are the ones who deal with the salespeople and dealerships that put themselves first. And it's not about them. It's about the customer. It's about the client. It's about the employees on the front lines, from management on down. If they have that be them centric attitude, because a true servant leadership philosophy starts with leaders eat last. Right. We get ours last. And as soon as you start switching that around, then the people who are on the front lines, who are actually meeting and greeting brand new customers in your business, if they don't feel like they're being taken care of, or if they don't feel like you care about a certain element of your own business, why should they? Perfect example. When I sold Mercedes here at a local dealership, I would have to tell my customers, well, can I get a loaner car when we come in for service? I said, well, just give us 3 or 4 weeks to make the input. 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, I know. The loaner program, for some reason, they just don't do it here. They don't do it. They don't buy into it or care about it all that much. For what? I don't know why. I don't think it costs us anything to do it.
No, have a few Mercedes, older Mercedes even, or whatever,
Yeah. So they were, I would have to try and sell around that. And, there are other people that have if you don't care, you can't expect your employees to either.
Right.
And no one's going to care about your business more than you. And to expect your employees and the people who work for you to care about it like they own it, it's not going to happen.
Well, and to understand though, if you're on commission, and I always recommend people, while they're in college, while they're doing anything, try and have a commission sales job, because that is your own business, right? And so you are running your own business. And when we do run our own business, we understand that we're not totally in control. Our customers are in control, right? Although, all the sales guru will say, oh, you need to maintain control. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you can make a business plan, or you can have a plan of the way you're going to sell, but your customer is going to tell you how they want to be sold to. And so I love the idea that they start their own business. There was a quote I found online the other day, and I copied it and posted on my Facebook. It's a biblical quote, and it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of the others." Philippians to verse 3 and verse 4. And some of the comments have been interesting. If only. Well, I tend to find teachers, nurses, business owners, first responders, and they're just the four that jump to mind. I find that in a lot of those categories, but I guess it's what we look for, depending on whether we're looking for the negative or the positive. But I tend to see those positive traits from that biblical quote, and it relates back to what you're talking about. The other way I say it is relationships before selling, right?
Yep.
You know, put your relationship, Sesame Street taught us R before S. Yeah. So I think you're spot on with where you're going with that.
The thing that's not alluring about that is that relationships take time. And, I think the car business can teach a lot of people a lot of things about life in general. Okay. There's a right way and a wrong way to handle yourself. There is a way to adopt a narrative and a fundamental understanding of selling so that you could sleep at night. I've been around people who have overcommitted and promised the world to things that they weren't sure that they could deliver on.
Right.
Well, can you get me a 2% interest rate? Yeah, all day long. And I'd be looking at them going, you don't know that. You have not pulled their credit. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Why are you saying that? So I would always take those instances and learn from them and say, look, I'm not you have to figure out what the words, what the phrases are that really resonate with you. And that comes from experience, from listening to other salespeople who have integrity and ethics and go about their business in a very moral way. And I was surrounded myself with a lot of those types of people in that dealership, in the Mercedes dealership. On the sales level, it was great. On the management level, it was a different story. But basically, with the guys I was working with and the guys and the women that I was working with, they wouldn't stab you in the back. It was a very big gentleman's floor. And you'd learn about all these different things. That why are you promising people interest rates that you're not sure you can get? And doing it doesn't pay off for you in the end. It's a transactional mindset. Right. And that person, that customer is going to go into the finance office and learn that they got a 4.8 interest rate, right? And then all of a sudden, what does that make you look like? An idiot. Right. Yeah. They're never going to want to send anybody to you. You shoot yourself in the foot. Why would you do that? So my approach was always hedging and saying, look, I'm not the bank. We haven't pulled credit yet. It just depends on, typically for something like this, we've seen anywhere from, 3.9 up to 8.9. Sometimes I've seen 19%. It just depends. I don't know what you look like.
Yeah, we don't know. Exactly.
I'm not in control of that. And they seem to appreciate it, right. And that helped me sell other things doing the upsell. When I got what I called first money, we agreed on the price of the car and the payments and all that stuff. The second money was then presented. Okay, let's talk about maintenance. Let's talk about warranty. Let's talk about tire and wheel and mop and slop and all that stuff. Here are the 4 things I recommend with this particular car. If you're buying an off-brand car from us, then, make sure you cover it with some sort of an aftermarket warranty. Just have some peace of mind. Right. 10 to 15 bucks a month is going to really set your mind at ease and cover the things that could, drastically and, catastrophically go wrong. You don't want to have to pay for a new engine. And I had a story, because I've also believed that facts tell as stories sell. I had a story that was true, that I bought an Infiniti from the dealership I worked for previous to the Mercedes dealership. I bought the warranty because it was an 80,000 plus mile car. Great car. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, at some point it needed a new engine and it was covered. It cost me a $200 deductible. And, took it to the Infiniti dealer. They handled everything. They gave me 3 options with an engine and whatever. I drove their car, their loaner car, which they had a loaner program. I drove it for 2.5 months. It was a great experience for me.
Right.
So it helped me sell those other things. And I say, for my kids, look, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, just go into the car business, learn how to sell. It doesn't mean you have to make a career out of it. Right. But commit yourself to 3 to 5 years. Because just even if you hate it, just do it. All right. That time will go by like that.
Right.
Even if you do hate it.
Yeah. And I find that, I don't know about you. Well, actually, let me ask you. So you've spent some time in the sales game. Do you ever find that you critique salespeople that pitch to you?
Yes.
I have so much fun with it. Because there's things I like and there's things that I think they did wrong. And, and then I'm telling my wife when they're not around, hey, he's going to come back. He's going to do this if he's any good. The first time I was looking at Kia Souls, I was going to look at an XB, a Toyota XB. And my friend was a big Toyota XB guy. And he said, man, I just did this mystery shop on a Kia Soul. He was in a mystery shopping program. He said, and he was big dude, like 420 pounds. And I was 325 at the time. And he's like, dude, you got to check out these Kia Souls. He says, I know you're shopping for a Scion, an XB, and I know I talk them up all the time, but this Kia Soul, you got to look at it. So it's 2010. So I go look at this desert sports model of a Kia Soul, which the desert tan wasn't a regular color. You had to pay a little bit extra for that. And it came with a moonroof. And I hate moonroofs because every car I've ever had, they leaked. But anyway, so the first thing, the guy sells me on this car. And all he does is he says, okay, hop in. He says, okay, plenty of room. He says, yeah. He says, let me get on the other side. He says, one of the cool features, they've just started bringing these out on cars. It's got a USB. So you don't need your iPod anymore. You just put a USB stick in it. And it plays songs. And so he puts the USB stick in. He says, Elvis, Buddy Holly, Iron Maiden. I said, Buddy Holly. Okay, I'm Buddy Holly. My dad was Buddy Holly. I'm a Buddy Holly guy. I don't know much about music. So he starts playing Buddy Holly, and the speakers light up. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, and we're driving down the road. He sold me on a new car with a friggin' USB stick. Yeah. USB stick. I'm like, dude, you are good. You are good. And how did you know that? I don't know how. Maybe it was impressive to him. And so, but I find I critique salespeople. You got any good or bad stories about critiquing salespeople when you go?
I have both. One of the cool features, I mean, much to the dealership's detriment, they didn't let us take the cars home and use them. We didn't have demos or anything. So if you wanted to get familiar in a practical sense, on the functional standpoints of these vehicles, you had to buy one. And there was just no way at the time that I was going to be able to remotely afford one. Right. One of the glaring problems that we had at that dealership. So we, every now and then I would come across a feature in the trainings on test drives and things of that nature. And one of them in the Mercedes was a brake hold feature. And I thought, now that we have one, and my wife uses it and she swears by it, it's a simple little feature that you come to a stoplight or maybe you're at a drive-through, and in the Mercedes, you just simply, while your foot is on the brake, you just kind of go a little bit further down, like an abrupt push on it, and it comes on. You take your foot off the brake, you get to relax, and when you're ready to go, you hit the gas and everything, off you go. It's a simple feature, but man, how many people in my role, in the sales role when delivering cars, didn't even bring that up? Right. And it's such a practical good.
Well, we spend so much time through drive-thrus, whether it's food, dry cleaning, banks, it doesn't matter. I mean, Americans have drive-thrus. Americans have drive-thrus for everything.
So, I mean, but the other side of it is recently I've been having a guy who's been trying to sell me on SEO and website marketing and everything. And they're doing the cold call, high pressure, one call close type of approach. And, hey, is this not a good time? No, it's not a good time. I can't even believe I answered the phone. Well, what is a good time? I don't know. What are you selling? Well, we're trying to do is I got a guy. We're all taken care of. Yeah, but if you just give me 30 seconds, no, dude, you're making it about you at that point. And I stopped the guy. I said, you need to start flipping the script, dude. You're not making this about me. This is about you. You need a portion of my time. You haven't given me something to consider. Okay. And I get it. I believe there's an element of cold calling karma that we all have to adhere to as salespeople. If we're going to be cold calling and expect our prospects to give us their time, we have to give time to those who are trying to cold call us. I believe that's a true thing. You have to reciprocate a little bit. But with this guy just kept on, he was hounding me. And I finally said, dude, maybe this works for you, but I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work for me. I'm not going to buy anything from you. And here's why. You're a pest. Okay. And all you're doing is trying to wear me down through persistence with no value attached. All right. You want to get me on the phone and I know exactly how the call is going to go. It's going to be a sales pitch with a hard close at the end. Trust me. I've seen it before and it's not going to work. You're wasting your time. And I said, if you really want to reach out, figure out what my hot buttons are, identify a problem that maybe I haven't thought about and try and solve it. That's the secret. Okay. Well, how can I solve a problem if you don't talk to me? That's a good question. You have to figure that out. What are you coming? We have a guy here selling our Octave line of lights, the full color RGB lights. Go to octavelighting.com, cheap plug. And that's one of the things. He's like, well, how do you propose cold calling? I said, get it out of the way. I said, I've used this technique before. I'll cold call somebody and say, listen, this is a cold call. I don't like making them. You don't like getting them. Is that fair? Well, yeah. Okay. With that being said, can I just get 20 seconds of time real quick? Well, not right now. Okay. Is there a better time? I promise you, it's just basically just to introduce myself, get to know you a little bit better. We're kind of playing in the same sandbox with car washes and things of that nature. What's a better time for you? Well, maybe Tuesday at 3. You warm up the cold call. Okay. That's where you start. Not, hey, I need 30 seconds of your time right now so I can elevator pitch you. That's no. I'm not in the mode.
My son did, right. So my son did one when I used to have this little coffee newspaper, right? The dad jokes down the middle and silly stories and then ads on the side. And so my oldest son came to work for me and helped me build it. And he was great on the phone. And he goes, hey, this is Jason Fox with the coffee news. This could be considered a sales call. Would you like to hang up now?
That's good.
Yeah. And the guy, some of them would hang up, and that's who he was looking for. Meanwhile, I'm cringing at my desk because I couldn't do that. I'm more of an in-person guy. But anyway, so he then calls them back and he goes, well, I guess that didn't work. Would you mind giving me 30 seconds? Could I try something else? And they normally laughed and gave him 30 seconds. Doesn't mean that they bought from him, but he used that pattern interrupt to interrupt what they were expecting. And he was very honest. Hey, this could be considered a sales call. Would you like to hang up now? Yes. No. That didn't really work. Hey, would you give me 30 seconds?
Yeah. It takes a little bit, but you're right. That pattern interrupt, that makes you memorable.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people don't. I used to critique people on that would be the telemarketers that would read off of scripts. And because that's what I do is a lot of voiceover coaching for people. Right. They'd go into their script and their spiel, and I'd be looking for let me just stop you right there. Sir? Yeah. Take that line one more time. And this time really just read the line, see it in your head, close your eyes, and then say the line. And they'd be like, what the hell did I get myself into? And I'd be like, I'm just coaching. I know you're reading off of a script and you're doing it badly. I'm just telling you, this is what I do part of what I do for a living is teaching people how to make scripts sound like they're speaking normally. Right.
Which is why I hate scripts. I love bullet points.
Yeah.
And I love finding people that can carry on a conversation. Now, I don't like making cold calls. I can make cold calls, but I'd much prefer to make a warm call, which is why I'm in BNI. I want to build those relationships. When you send me a contact for a guy or a girl, I want to be able to say, hey, Jim McCarthy said I should reach out to you. He said he might have spoke to you about me. My name's Ed Fox from Trade Bank. And it works well. It's that warm up is good. And like you said, find the hot button. Like if I was trying to prospect you and sell you, maybe the ticket item would only be about $1,000, right? So if I'm trying to sell you $1,000 item, I'm like, oh, well, who's the guy I need to talk to? Oh, Jim McCarthy. Well, let's see if he's got a Facebook page, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's big into Marvel. Oh, the next movie's coming out. Well, I'm going to buy him 2 tickets if he'll give me some time. I say, hey, Jim, it's Ed Fox. You don't know me. I got a couple of Marvel tickets to the next Marvel movie here. Can I bribe you to listen to me for a minute?
Yeah.
Is that cool?
I've been telling the person that's selling the Octave for us, he's brand new at sales, and I've been telling him that it's always all about them. You have to have every single follow-up you make. You want them to see your phone number come up on this phone, and you want them to go, oh, it's Kyle, and take the call. Or, oh, it's Kyle. I can't take it right now, but I got to call him back. Those are the responses you are trying to craft over time. Right. If they see your number come up and they go, oh gosh, what does this guy want? You're losing at that point. I said, and we call them TLBs, twitchy little bastards, the guys who won't give you their time. They hang up on you. And I said, you're going to get those. I said, so how do you figure out to pattern interrupt those guys? I said, if you really think that there's something worthwhile exploring with these guys, then buy a $10, $20 gift card or coffee card and say, hey, listen, I know the last time you didn't have time to talk. Next time, take some time for yourself, take a 10, 20-minute break, go get yourself some coffee on me. And while you're out there, give me a call for a minute or so. Can't hurt.
Right.
All right. And it's in their best interest. Maybe they'll use the card, maybe they won't. But at least it's like what you're talking about, a pattern interrupt. In advertising, it was what I called a look at your radio moment. The first, because a lot of what I did was writing the ads for different local clients. So when they had, when the ad would come on, of course, it depended on where in the spot set they were too. So if they were coming out of a music break and going into a spot set, the first placement was always ideal. So my job was to figure out how to surprise Broca. And Broca's area of the brain is the part of our brain that filters out all the irrelevant messages. Okay. And a lot of people don't realize that we are bombarded by 8 to 12,000. I think it is now 8 to 12,000 messages a day.
Wow.
We don't even realize it. That's how good our Broca is. So we have to, surprise Broca, and there's an actual course you can learn from. I'm trying to think of what it's called, but basically, how do you come out of I'll look at your radio moment. I wanted people to be driving in their car, hear a phrase that I came up with that got their attention, and they go, "Oh wow, what was that?" Like, make them look at their radio. That's what you're looking for, an attention getter, if you will. Yeah. That's not a blaring siren or a car horn,
right? Monday, or Sunday. Yeah.
I love the ads that say attention. Okay. Scrolling right on by you.
Hey, so what's the best dad joke you've heard lately?
I heard one this morning and I tagged you with it.
Okay.
I saw one on Facebook and I can't remember what it was, but it was great.
Oh, well.
It was, man.
Well, what's the second best dad joke you've heard lately?
I have it. I'm thinking about how it went. So here it is. It's dad goes to the doctor and says, look, my kids seem to have this propensity to wanting to be valets. They just really love being valets. And the doctor says, well, they probably suffer from Parker's son's disease.
That's good. I like that. What was one I heard the other? I heard
that was the wrong sound effect. Here we go. I got to have the cough. I got to get the cough sound effect of the guy in the background that's going. That's a great sound effect.
Yeah. I get stuck on YouTube occasionally and go down a rabbit hole, as I'm sure a few people do. I found the whole series of the Fat Albert that I grew up watching in the 70s with Bill Cosby. They were all on YouTube, and I got caught watching those on a Saturday instead of doing the things my wife asked me to do. But one of the sounds, and somehow I got back to myinstance.com, which is where I get this soundboard, and I found this one. FBI, open up! And I'm like, okay, guys, I got to go. I want to use that. It's like, I've got to go. But I just have fun with these different sounds and stuff. So the dad joke I'm telling a lot lately is two mushrooms walk into a bar. Bartender says, sir, we don't serve vegetables in here. And the mushroom says, but I'm a fun guy. Thanks for being on the show. We should do this again.
Absolutely, brother. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.